just leave it at 0 for a while. Make you question as to whether or not I'm really live. So I am live, by the way. So thanks for joining me, meteorologist Aaron Tuttle. I was just looking Facebook here on my computer. It didn't tell me I was live, and I was like, wait a minute, I have to be live. So yeah, I don't know what Facebook was doing. Wasn't even notifying me. I'm the one that's doing it. Crazy, eh? All right, I stole that from you, Jody. Trying to speak a little Canadian. All right, so it's just an inside joke. All right, that's enough about that. Let's go on to the weather. I'm going to talk about the threat for severe storms for tomorrow and also for Saturday. And again, on Monday, we'll tell you where the risk is and just whether or not there's anything you still need to worry about, and where the most likely area is going to be, all that kind of stuff. So thanks for joining me. If you haven't been following there this week, we've been kind of touching base on the extended outlook because there's a lot of brouhaha coming up. And what's funny is I'm not old enough to forget that it wasn't just a few years ago that no one got worked up over a forecast of severe weather that was 7 days away or 6 days away. But for whatever reason, today's day and age, I mean, it's out there. So, and this is part of the reason I think that happens. A lot of these things that we see as meteorologists behind the scenes, we've always seen them, we've always known them. Now we're getting some better tools and better research so we can look at and go, oh, that's cool, that's interesting. And as a Met, we get excited about that. We're like, ooh, maybe we'll get some severe weather here. Maybe we'll get some tornadoes. That kind of insider discussion. What happened was somehow with the age of social media, that insider discussion became outside knowledge. And there's an old saying is, what you don't know can hurt you. Well, you didn't know in the past all this stuff, so you weren't worked up and anxious over it, so it couldn't hurt you. Now, because the cat's out of the bag and we show you all these cool things that we look at, now everybody's all freaking out because they think that's set in stone. And that's the issue, is that none of this is set in stone when you're going that far out in time. So that's why I always preach the 48-hour rule, not to get too concerned until we hit that window, and then we'll start to detail things of what's going to happen. So I hope that puts a little bit of light on the subject as to why things kind of evolved on how they've done so and how things are a lot more hyped and there's a lot more just information out there that you weren't used to getting. And now how do I process this is kind of what your trouble spot is. So thanks for coming to me. I'm going to try to help you process that information on a more logical standpoint versus emotional, and that way I'll bring your anxiety back down. We'll all talk about it together. You'll understand what's going on in the big picture, and then whether or not you need to be concerned and have a game plan. And that's pretty much how we approach things here. So thanks again for watching, for joining, telling your friends and family about AT's Weather, for using my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It's free. And if I get enough of you guys sign up, I get about 125,000+ followers. If I can get just about 4,000 more of you guys sign up to sponsor me as supporters and subscribe either through Patreon or Subscribestar, or even I'm going to initiate what Facebook is doing, which is also a subscription service. You guys sign up for that, and then I'm going to make the AT's Weather to Go ad-free for everybody. So I think we can do it. It's an easy goal. It's an easy target to hit. You guys love me. You support me, right? Well, get on it. And this is one way you can do that. And that way I can give back to everybody. Because the whole point I do this is you guys give a little bit to me, I give right back. So we keep the circle of life going, and everybody scratches each other's back. And the back scratch is the best. Okay, so enough of all that. Let's get on to the meat and potatoes of what you're here about. All right, so let's see. I want to start you with this guy here. So this is the outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. You can notice we got two main areas of focus, one way up here in Nebraska and one way down here in western Texas. In between, not nearly as active as what the prior thought was in this area because of some problem areas. Now here's a look at the detailed outlook. I'm just going to skip through here. Basically the issue is there's a capping inversion, which we talked about, with an elevated mixed layer, which means there's not a lot of moisture to work with for the dry line that helped produce a lot of storms here in eastern Texas Panhandle. So even though they have convergence, we're missing some of the key elements out there, and they say eventually in the evening hours we should get a little bit better shear, maybe a little bit better moisture. So if that's the case, we might be able to squeeze out a couple of supercell storms with large hail and a couple of tornadoes being the main threats. So that's it. So in other words, they're not overly excited about the Texas Panhandle at this point. Now, new data, of course, is coming in now that they'll analyze, and then new data will come in tomorrow, and they'll have a much better way of fine-tuning this for tomorrow morning based off the new observations and how things look. But right now, there is no indication that anything has changed since we've been talking about it since Wednesday. Now, we can also look at the analogs, which compares historical weather patterns to about this one. And right now, it's saying, you know what, the hot spot's up here in the Central Plains in Nebraska. It's a little signal down here, far western Oklahoma, but it's really weak. Right now, it's thinking the north is the play. So in other words, storm chasers are going to have a tough time deciding where to go tomorrow. My guess is majority of them are going to head up here in Nebraska. There'll be a few stragglers hoping for the best for a stray storm down here in the Texas Panhandle. Now, the model from last night also forecasts the best probability of tornadoes within that. And again, right now, it's focused mainly up here in this area. It does have one little signal here. So in other words, the models do say, you know what, we could get a thunderstorm out of this whole deal, like literally one or two. And then if they do, we might actually get a tornado out of it. So in other words, the models aren't overly excited, but the signal is just weak. It's still there. So you can't discard it. So that would be what the forecast is for that area. The other thing I want to talk about is the ensemble runs. And I like to use this sometimes because sometimes the operational runs don't do a fantastic job at seeing everything. So sometimes you want more of a ensemble member, which is a group of models that kind of put it all in a basket and see what happens. And this actually does try to produce a thunderstorm down here across the far southeastern Texas Panhandle, really in northwest Texas, and that would move northeast. So that would be something to watch for. That would be at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, and then that would move into southern Oklahoma. So if that would be the case, it would likely be probably tornadic or close to it, and I'd be tracking that for you. It's got some new development down here toward the midnight hour in southwest Oklahoma, and that's just the beginning stage of what's going to be a wet night for Friday night into Saturday morning. And then we're going to get to that here next. By the way, I really like this model, the tech model, and I'm going to show you what the output looks like on this. It's been very consistent. So again, it doesn't fire off anything, which is ironic because normally it would fire off a storm if one's going to happen. It's really good at picking one out. It's got nothing for tomorrow. Now as we head into tomorrow night, into Saturday morning, it's got these storms over here into southern Oklahoma and pretty much along the I-44 corridor, point south and east. Doesn't quite have it in Oklahoma City Metro, actually keeps it just south, which is interesting. It's the first time I've seen this trend. We'll see if that continues. But what happens is that kind of merges into a squall line for eastern Oklahoma. And there are these little tracks here that are in red are helicity tracks, meaning rotation tracks in the storm itself. So hail producers and possibly a couple of tornadoes embedded within this for eastern Oklahoma. And then if you look out here to the west, it's got a couple of storms that fire in that area, even here in central Oklahoma, but they're having a hard time not only getting strong, but doing anything of significance until they move a little bit more to the east. And the issue is anything that forms in this area that moves eastward is running back into what we call rain-cooled subsidence air. And that offsets the instability, causes these storms to be weaker, helps to limit tornadoes, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that here in just a second. So this is a significant outcome that's on the table as far as how things ought to evolve on Saturday. Now, that's kind of like for more of a specifics on some of the key elements. This one here will give you a better broad picture, and it actually does really good here so far this spring. I've really been liking this output for this model. It's nailed most of the events really well, so I'm going to lean real favorable for this for the forecast. So it's got, again, nothing out here in the Panhandle region at all tomorrow. Tomorrow night into early Saturday morning, it's got some light rain in Tulsa and Oklahoma City. Again, nothing heavy yet. All the heavy stuff still into Texas. Then that crosses over the border by daybreak on into our mid-morning hours for Saturday. Then again, kind of like a squall line issue sets up there for eastern Oklahoma. Not nearly as intense or strong as that prior model. Actually quite a bit weaker. Then it does try to fire off some storms out here in western Oklahoma because that atmosphere wasn't really touched. And so it's going to be a lot more unstable. So it's going to try to fire off some thunderstorms out here, which would rotate, and these could produce some tornadoes. Now, if I look at I'm just going to pick an area over here for the sounding. This data just came in, so I'm looking at it live and raw with you, and then we're going to base a forecast off of this. So out here, the issue I see now is we have a little problem with the wind fields as far as not being uniform, a little weaker. Moisture seems to be okay. It does indicate a tornado potential for the sounding, but it's messy, it's not clean, and the potential strength of a tornado is on the bottom end, basically E of 0. So that's what the model looks like out there for western Oklahoma should these storms actually materialize. And this was around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, looks like. As we head into the 7 o'clock hour, it looks like they may get a little bit more intense. But the problem is we have to sample. Here's moving through the metro, by the way, about 8 o'clock Saturday evening, and then they quickly move east and out of there. So let's take a sample of what the atmosphere looks like as these storms arrive in Oklahoma City. And this is going to kind of tell us what the potential is once they arrive. And we'll see how much effect that the rain-cooled air from east has. In other words, if we've had a chance to kind of re-destabilize somewhat. Okay, one of the issues is the temperatures have not warmed up. We're in the low 70s, but dew point is also around 70. So that's in other words extremely moist. We've got the moisture back. Wind speed's actually pretty decent from the southeast, a little bit at the surface to a southwest. A little messy after that, but still better than they are in western Oklahoma for producing a potential tornado. And then here it does call for a tornado type. Not a lot of matches with this because there's no really good analogs that matches Saturday's environment in history. But some of the indices are producing more of a stronger end tornado should they happen. So according to this particular run, this is a new run, this is a new look at how the atmosphere may evolve Saturday afternoon after that morning storms of lines move through. Morning line of storms, get that right. Okay, so again, that moves through Saturday evening. So if you have any plans in here on Saturday, this is what it is. You got the heavy stuff that moves through from mid to late morning. By lunchtime, it's starting to press out of Oklahoma City metro area, moving into Tulsa and the rest of eastern Oklahoma. Stuff up there in northern Oklahoma, and then we got the new round out here northwest. By the way, I think in prior data sets, northwest Oklahoma is more favorable for a weak tornado than other parts of the state. And let me take a look at here. The new data says not even as much anymore. A little bit drier, winds aren't nearly as favorable. So the models are going wishy-washy even in northwest Oklahoma for that activity that pops up around 5 o'clock. So again, in other words, it's not, there's no indications of a tornado outbreak in the model data at this point in time. Could we see a couple of weak ones? Yeah, it looks like that's going to be right now is what the forecast would be according to this. Let's see. So anyway, so that moves on through. Then it's out of here, and then we're pushing on into Saturday night, and it's all east on Sunday's fine. Now, if you live in Dallas, we talked about Dallas-Fort Worth earlier as well. You guys are going to have your line of storms moving through around it's sped up a little bit, so it looks like more like late morning, and that will help to limit your severe weather threat a little bit. But you could still see a weak tornado there, and same thing goes for Oklahoma in the morning hours on Saturday. It's a very odd time for that. But anywhere where you've got, with the wind shear we have in place, you could get a weak tornado in the morning hours somewhere embedded in all this nonsense. So don't be surprised if that does happen on Saturday morning. I'll be up early to watch things, and then I'll be broadcasting live should that happen. So I'm prepared to do that for kind of the both rounds tomorrow morning, and then we'll get a break, and then the stuff that comes in the afternoon and evening out here in western Oklahoma. Okay, so that was something I wanted to show you. Now, that is the one of our high resolution models. Now, its big brother isn't quite as gung-ho on the destabilization. It's got the stuff that moves in tonight and tomorrow morning, Friday night and Saturday morning. Again, nothing out for Friday, by the way. Again, it's dry out there for Friday afternoon. But so once that moves through, it does try to produce a couple of storms here in central Oklahoma. Now, as I mentioned earlier, they're pretty close to the line that's moving off to the east. And this is what I mentioned a moment ago, what happens with that. You see this right here? Very cold. So even though the wind shear is great for producing a tornado, the instability has disappeared because we have temperatures that are about 10 degrees too cool from that cold pool. We call it a cold pool. It's like a mini cold front once you get behind a system like that called a meso-high. So in this particular case, that would prevent tornadoes from occurring. So again, this is the big brother of the same model we just looked at. The high resolution brother says, no, we can clear on out. The big brother says, no, you're not, little brother. We're going to be just fine. We're going to probably wait till tomorrow to kind of see how this evolves. But sometimes that's the way it goes. You're looking at this type of fine detail on more of a hyper-local area. So it doesn't have anything, by the way, in western Oklahoma. Completely different look, slightly different schematics between the two different models. Even though the base code is similar, they throw in some extras on the physics side for the high resolution version. But so we'll see which one wins. Tomorrow we'll take a look. But right now you'd have to call for the forecast. Of just could see some redevelopment out in western Oklahoma by Saturday afternoon, and then we'll go from there. But the morning rain, of course, is going to be a sure bet for Saturday morning. So if you have any plans that you're going to have to contend with. And again, Friday, there's no threat at all. So if you got any plans Friday evening, you're fine here across the body of the state. And then we'll see if a storm can bubble up out there in the Texas Panhandle and track it if it actually were to keep coming east. Okay, so what else was there I want to show you? I think, it was these guys here. Okay, so let me see how these, what we have is, we call them the CAM models. The CAM models are specifically designed to sniff out severe weather. And then tornado type storms, big storms, or supercells, all that kind of stuff. Well, here's one that's got nothing going out there for Friday night out west. All right, so let's go to the next one. This one here loves to overdo it and always producing storms, even when there's none that's actually going to happen. So there you go. I'm not surprised it's producing a few out there in the eastern panhandle. And they cross over in Oklahoma and quickly die by 7 or 8 o'clock. They don't amount to anything. I usually throw that model away, just so you know. I've never put any faith into it at all. It's never performed well. But I look at it because I expect it to go nuts. Just because. All right. Then I look at this other one. It's a good functioning version. It's got some stuff trying to go bubble up there in North Texas, and it doesn't do very well. So again, Friday evening, quiet. So look, the problem is I can't find you a model that does really anything for Friday. And the reason for that is because, again, there's not enough moisture out there to speak of for producing that type of a situation. Matter of fact, I'll show you this real quick. It's just so you can see what I'm talking about. We showed you this last night. So let's go to 23. So we'll take a look out here in the eastern Texas Panhandle where this stuff would develop off the dry line. Dry line is basically a line of moist air, and we still have a cap in place. And actually, moisture is a little bit better at that one spot that I picked. And the wind shear is good. Tornado, a lot of severe hail from 3 to 4 inches in diameter. A lot of analogs for supercells, a significant tornado. Again, so the only thing missing here is this model says the moisture is a little bit better, which is a new change. Remember, this just came in, so I'm just now looking at it with you. The prior ones weren't so gung-ho on that. But it's still got a strong cap. Typically, though, the cap will break with enough forcing on that dry line. So, and I'd still go with the 1 or 2 supercell storms breaking out in eastern Texas Panhandle. Even though all the other models are still dry, I still think that can happen. So, should they happen, I'm with the Storm Prediction Center, and hail and the tornado threat would be there. Favorable areas I had always liked was the northeastern Texas Panhandle and the southeastern Texas Panhandle. So we'll see if those 2 areas stay, and then tomorrow we'll have a better look at that. So I'm kind of glad I looked at that real quick just to get a status check, even though, like I said, the models didn't really do much. They do fire off stuff here in Kansas, though, with it. Like I said, up closer to Nebraska, so that's where there'll be a lot of storm chasers in that area. But there'll still be a few stragglers down here hoping to catch that one lone supercell. Okay, so that's everything that takes you through this weekend, because Sunday's not a big deal. But what I have to tell you about is Monday. Monday's a problem. Monday's a problem child. Monday needs to be told to go sit in a corner. So that's how bad Monday is, and it's not for what you think. Let's see. This model's not going to go out that far, so I'm going to have to go to this one. Hang on there. I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about. So we're going to look at the total precipitation forecast. And let's see if this has changed any. Now this thing changed quite a bit. Huh. Alright, well now I'm not going to believe this one. Just because it's too much of a dramatic change. What it did is it took all the 6 to 10 inch rainfall totals and shoved them up here into Kansas. They were all shoved down here across Oklahoma. So the take home is going to be some flash flooding. Now the question is, where is the specific location most likely for the flash flooding? This was the midday run. I'm going to go back to the morning and see how it differs. Yeah, so here's the morning run. So there's a lot more of this purple now on the map right in here. So close to 6 inches. And then here's the ones up around 8 inches up in this area of the state. So again, flash flooding is likely going to be a problem on Monday. And then the shear and the instability is going to still be there. So I would likely think we'd have some embedded, rough storms in there that may produce a couple of tornadoes. So Monday, again, mostly a flash flooding event, but a couple of tornadoes probably still will likely happen. The event's coming in way too early, though, so it's not timed right, but it's so strong. Models keep producing wave after wave after wave. And I can look at it from this aspect of it. So let's see, we've got takes us for Saturday morning, a little wraparound Saturday evening over central Oklahoma, eastern Oklahoma, then that moves out. Does it go far enough into Monday? There, it just now starts in a Monday morning, and it's got all the heavy showers and storms out here to the west already moving in. So that's kind of good for instability because it kind of keeps instability down lower, but the wind shear should pick up because the storm system's so strong. So it's going to kind of offset that a little bit. That's what I'm saying. I mean, one of those weird days. But man, just the potential for the waters is just ridiculous. So that's something we're going to have to watch for. Okay. So anything else I can think of? Real quick, I mentioned this last night. If you'd like to, you can check out my Amazon store. It's a new thing I just put up there. So it's amazon.com/shop/AT's weather. Real easy. So if you go there, you can see my weather list. And on my weather list, I pick a lot of things that the kids are going to like as far as books to read or weather science kits to look at. If they want to have a rain gauge, I've got the official rain gauge I used when I was a weather watcher in high school. That's still out there, still available, and it's official. It's still going. I've got a lot of neat things on there you're going to use for a not survival kit, but a emergency preparedness kit, like to put in your storm shelter or your closet here at home for your tornado bug out bag, so to speak. So I've got that stuff in there. I've got the weather station that I actually use here at my house. Is the best weather station out there. And then a lot of you have asked me about NOAA weather radio, so I've got the one that I pick out here as well. So take a look at that. Should save you a few bucks. Anyway, so that's what's on my store here from Amazon. So I'll add a few more things that I think are helpful weather-wise that I would either use, have used, do use, you should use, all that kind of stuff. That would be helpful for you in outdoor and weather-related activities. So I think that was about it. All right, so that's what I have for you for tonight. The take-home again is, we'll probably see a few storms around here, and especially on Saturday, and I'll be watching them for you. Just have a game plan. Know what you're going to do, where you're going to go, what the kid's going to be up to, how many you got to round up. It's always the center part of your home or business, lowest floor, away from windows and outside walls. Bathrooms are good, staircases. If you've got a storm shelter, use that. So all that kind of stuff helps out. Let me ask, let's see, it's almost 10 o'clock. Let me see here real quick. I know sometimes I go a little long on these deals, but it's for good reason because there's a lot to talk about. So, okay. Real quick on my... Come on there, mute. Mute. There you go. I was going to go to my Patreon and see if you guys had any quick questions. I'll shoot them out real quick. If not, we're going to wrap this up so we can all get to bed. So, Curtis, yeah, I'm sure that's part of it with the Moore situation causing some anxiety. I get that. Yeah, it turns out just having back-to-back tornadoes like that in the same town is unheard of as far as historical, when you say like a 100-year flood, it's a 100-year event type deal, and there's two of them. So that's good and bad. Bad because it happened, but good because it typically means you won't go and get it again. Of course, no one wants a tornado like that anyway, so of course no one in the metro. You like these things in the remote areas of Oklahoma where no one lives. That's the best place for them. Does someone need to bring you coffee, Christy, on Saturday morning? They might. We'll see. Or Saturday evening if we get the secondary round that tries to go. Just depends on that if we can destabilize. So, okay, back on here on my weather page, the main page. So those of you folks that don't know, when I broadcast live. I'm simulcasting on three methods. So it's on the main Facebook page you guys are watching mostly, and then it's on my secret group, closed Facebook group that all my patrons are part of, and then the third thing is on my YouTube page, which also you can watch through my app or my weather website, AaronTuttleWeather.com. So hit the live stream in there, and you can watch the YouTube through there. Now, if you go to the YouTube directly, there's actually a chat, and you can talk just like you can here on Facebook and comment with others. Let me think. And when I do tornado coverage, all three will be going with closed captioning for each of those. Let's see if there was anything else about that. I think that was it. All right, so Janet wants to know, flying to Houston Monday from Oklahoma City, would be better to fly to Dallas on Monday? Possibly. Most of the rain was holding off until mid-morning on Monday here in Oklahoma City. So it depends what time your flight is. Plus, you're also asking a question that's hour by hour, and I have to remind you that it's 10 o'clock on Thursday. So for me to get that specific for you, I'm good, but not that good. I know my limitations, and that's a big limitation. So no promises on the exact time or hour. But if you feel more comfortable, sure, you can head up out of Dallas. Let's see. Oh, there are some tournaments I know this weekend, golfing, all that kind of stuff. There's, it's Saturday morning, so you got the old neighborhood garage sales. I don't know what to tell you, other than it looks wet. Maybe things will change and the rain will stay more south and east of the metro, like that one model suggested. It was the first one to do it, the only one to do it. And I don't see that happening, but we'll see what tomorrow looks like. But right now, I'm going wet. And there were some other comments, but they all got truncated. So if you had a question for me earlier while I was doing all the talking, I didn't see it. So usually, on that case, you guys can talk amongst yourselves, and then toward the end, say your questions toward the end, and then if I got time, I'll try to answer a few of them. Kevin says, NWS up their severity for Monday, but only in risk. Not only in risk, but language. Well, that's fine. The wording that they had upped earlier, and rightfully so, was the flooding aspect. So right now, it's the only thing I would be upping, because we're too far out to get specific on anything else. So, Brennan, huge flooding concerns in Tulsa. Have you seen the Arkansas River? I know. I've seen some of those pictures and videos, and yeah, you guys do not need any more flooding. Trust me. Of course, some of the state doesn't need any more flooding either. So, hey, Jeremy, watching from Johnston County. Got you guys all over the place. Juan's over there pitching insurance coverage. That's a no-no. There will be no advertising of services on AT's weather feeds where you get the boot. And by the boot, that means insta-block. You don't want to be insta-blocked, because then you'll come back crying to me. Why'd you block me? Why'd you ban me? I said, well, because you violated my TOS, AT's terms of service. Starting to sound like Facebook. So, okay. We'll see how well do you believe, by your observation, that the new GFS model has performed this spring? Honestly, I haven't paid much attention to the GFS since the winter time when it was stinking so bad. I basically just threw it away. They've been tweaking it over the last couple months, so supposedly the tweaks are being implemented. So we'll see. So I'll probably start paying more attention to it now. Alright, so he was just asked about a different model. Now, that's the American model. Upgrade, that still stinks, because Americans do not know how to make a long-range model, apparently. What we did, we took an old one, and we tried to change parts of code in it to make it better, and it broke the code in other parts of it. And so it's like a Frankenstein model versus just a clean start from scratch, build from fresh with the latest and newest research. That's what they should have done. But, they don't want to spend the money, so it's a mess. I talked to a couple of the modeling guys about that model, and they just did a lot of head shaking. But you gotta do what you do, you know. You get hired to do something, you do it, and hope for the best. So, because this stuff was back in the '70s, you know, as far as the code they were having to redo. And remember, they're not the original coders. They got to go back and figure out who did what and why. And there's no, you know, sometimes there's no comments on the coding blocks, and it was a mess, according to the guy I was talking to. But anyway, but yeah, the European model has always been superior. However, in the wintertime here in Oklahoma, it did not do well. And that's the first time I've seen it bomb here in the winter. It was always my go-to. And I was really disappointed. But honestly, none of the models did really well this winter. I was surprised by that. I really was. But anyway. All right, I got to get out of here. It's already 10 o'clock. So appreciate you guys for watching. I'll do a Facebook Live at lunch tomorrow to update you on anything new that's came in the morning data. We'll see if anything has changed. And then Friday evening, either I'll be covering the tornadoes, should they actually be any, that can move into the state. If not, then we'll do a Facebook Live Friday evening, probably about the same time, about 9:30, when the new model data comes in, and then we'll see by that time how the storms have evolved down in western Texas, and then how things will look for Saturday, so you can plan your Saturday more by the hour, so versus just a generic by the day. And we'll go from there. All right, you guys be careful, have a good night's sleep, and we'll talk again soon.